You may have not been aware of it, but currently the FIDE Candidates Chess Tournament in 2024 is currently ongoing. And there have been some interesting games coming out of it, let's just say that. So in this video, I'm basically going to update you on the standings, what's going on, who is likely to go through and be the top contenders for the ability to go and challenge Dingleran in the actual World Chess Championship, and all of my thoughts and opinions on them. So let's go. Okay, so round one wasn't necessarily too entertaining because all of the games were actually draws, but you can still learn a lot from these draws, such as how to balance really potentially unbalanced positions and sort of how to improve your chess in the daily by sort of taking these concepts and putting them into your own chess. Another thing I am annoyed about, nobody's played the English opening so far. We're on like, what, round 4 now or something? Nobody's played the English opening? What's that all about? I mean, so Vidit and Gukesh played against each other in round 1, and that ended up being the Tarish defense. And was, as you can see, pretty much equal the entire game. There was a few like great moves and everything, but this game lasted 21 moves. Literally 21 moves and it was over. It was just a complete draw. Really easily, complete draw. Bish bash bosh. You know, sorted. And all of the games in round 1 were a draw. So, again, nothing too exciting. However, round 2, okay, I'm setting up the scene. Round 2, everyone's on equal points. Everyone is 0.5 out of 1. They've all drawn every single game they've played so far. However, round 2, every single game is decisive. Somebody wins every single game. And as you can see here, we've got Nijat Abasov versus Fabiano Caruana. And Fabi is supposed to be one of the toughest seats to beat, basically. In this tournament, he's predicted to win or come like second, I think. So, hard one to beat, especially as Abasov is actually the lowest rated candidate in this candidates tournament. So, here's how the game went. Fabi started with e4, followed by c5, the Sicilian, by Abasov. And as you can see, Fabi is prepared for it. Not only is the Sicilian like a great opening, it's one of my favourites, but if you are a high-rated player, every single person will have studied this so intensely. And you can see that at this point, move 14, everything's pretty equal. Fabi's a little bit better just because of the placement of all of his pieces, and there's a lack of development sort of over here due to this light squared bishop still being on the back rank. Whereas if you can see over here, Fabi's pieces are all pretty much developed. It'd be good to sort of try and center some rooks and everything in the future, but it's all good for now. In addition to this, Abasov also has some double pawns, whereas all of Fabi's pawns are connected, basically, and none of them are doubled. So it's looking better for Fabi at this point. So we get to move 23, and Abasov has basically just captured a pawn on b4, and Fabi recaptures. A takes b4. And Abasov actually moves over, he swings his rook over to a8, basically trying to support this pawn and further making it down this side of the board. Obviously it'll be a struggle, but there is the queen that is spying on this pawn over here, so it shouldn't be too difficult of a problem. However, at this point, Fabi makes a mistake, objectively, and that is king h1. Now, the correct response to this is a5, and then b takes a5. And in this situation, Abasov and Caruana are actually pretty much equal at this point, even though Fabi before was quite a bit better, almost like almost +1, according to the eval bar. So on move 31, Abasov actually plays a great move, g5, attacking this rook over here and basically forcing it out of the way. However, Fabi ignores the threat on his rook and plays queen g3, which means obviously this pawn cannot take this rook due to it being pinned by the queen onto the king. If you can see to the left of the screen as well, Fabi and Nijat Abasov are very low on time. So Caruana has 10 minutes and 6 seconds, and Abasov has 21 minutes and 27 seconds. So that's obviously something that needs to be considered as well. At this point, Abasov plays h6, and Fabi drops his rook back, protecting it once again, and basically removing the threat of any possible captures if the queen has to move because of the threat of this pawn moving further down the board, that type of thing. So at this point, Abasov captures the pawn on c4, and Fabi immediately recaptures with his rook on f5. And Fabi at this point is better. This knight over here on b3 is still protected by the queen on g3. So it's not an issue of sort of losing any material at all, but it does put Fabi in a much better position than previously. Next, Abasov takes the knight on b3 and the queen recaptures. And as you can see to the left of your screen, the eval bar has skyrocketed in Fabi's favour. Abasov captures on a5 with his rook, and Fabi swings his rook over to f1, basically planning in the future to, let's say move is made. It would never get made in this sort of situation. However, check with the rook. It's forking these two pieces basically. Queen has to recapture. You can recapture with the queen, and has to move out of the way. So back to rook f1, which is, like the engine says, a great move. Abasov obviously calculates this in the short amount of time that he has left and moves his king out of the way, trying to stop that fork basically between the king and the queen, and, you know, sort of trying to preserve his chances as much as possible. But Fabi still plays rook f7. Beautiful move, and Abasov resigns. Another game I really want to cover in this round is Vidit versus Hikaru Nakamura. And Hikaru has been sort of deflecting the pressure of the tournament recently and been saying like, I literally don't care about it. I literally don't care. I think he does care, but I think he's sort of trying to deflect the pressure that he has from this tournament, and people saying that this is the best chance that Hikaru has had to become world champion, and sort of try and negate that and improve his chances, basically. This game, however, is a really good game by Vidit. And if you recall, I put Vidit as one of my people who I really wanted to win the candidates tournament. And I still do want him to win. And this is the type of game that Vidit produces when he's like in the right mindset and everything, which is as follows. So we get to move 6. Everything's equal. We're just in the opening stages, obviously. Rui Lopez opening the Berlin defense. And yeah, everything's looking good. They're both clearly well rehearsed in these type of openings and have learnt a lot about them, not only just for the candidates tournament, but also just in their huge history of doing chess and playing for such a long time. However, this changes very quickly, as a few moves later, on move 11, everything looks equal here, and then Vidit plays bishop takes h3 out of nowhere. And instead of, you know, doing the normal move, recapturing, like, yeah, it absolutely sucks that your king is open and everything, but there is chances later on to sort of move this rook over onto g1 and target some weaknesses that this king has, pinning the pawn to the king, that type of thing. Instead of doing that, Hikaru actually plays knight c4. And the evaluation bar plummets. It absolutely plummets. At this point, Vidit plays top engine move, which is bishop g4, just targeting the queen, trying to prevent this trade, basically, between the knight and the bishop. Vidit, at this point, really wants to keep his bishops. It's always good in saying that the bishop pair is extremely valuable, and Vidit wants to keep that. And so Hikaru just sort of moves his queen out of the way, trying to defend it as much as he can, basically. And then Vidit retreats with his dark square bishop. So this is actually kind of a threat on the bishop and on the knight at the same time. Obviously, if Vidit doesn't move this knight, then Hikaru will just capture this knight and be up piece. And will be, you know, in a much stronger position. However, it also threatens the bishop as well, because if bishop takes, then the knight is going to take as well. And all of a sudden you see how much those bishop pairs actually affected him and how much they were actually helping Vidit. Like, this eval bar has absolutely skyrocketed. So it's so important for Vidit at this point to jump back with his knight in order to sort of prevent losing his dark square bishop, even though the attack was actually technically on his knight. So Hikaru then does a similar move that Vidit did on him, just capturing a pawn, and obviously the king has to step over to h8 and the bishop retreats, but retreats back to the same place. Vidit then pushes, just trying to put more pressure onto the knight and make some awkward decisions, but Hikaru jumps over to attack the light square bishop, and then Vidit chooses knight takes e5, which not only attacks this bishop, which Hikaru would very much like to keep, but also protects this bishop over here as well. So if Hikaru takes, he can easily recapture. However, instead of Hikaru capturing with the knight and then Vidit recapturing with the knight, Hikaru plays bishop e2. And instead of going for the trade again, Vidit plays f5, Hikaru plays f4, and a brilliant move by Vidit, bishop b6, pinning this knight to the king. So Hikaru, 33 minutes left, all of a sudden goes down to the next move with 12 minutes left on his clock. There was a 20-minute think in order to try and figure this out. And I saw a lot of people saying online, this is why you need to develop your pieces. You see how Vidit's pieces are all developed. His king is pretty open, like the H file is open, apart from Vidit's king on that file, on h8. But all of Hikaru's pieces are jumbled on the back. You know, they're all very, very close together, and they're not really working in harmony either. So Vidit puts further pressure onto the knight on e3, that's still pinned to the king. And Hikaru performs a check, rook h1. Pretty basic check to sort of get him some more time, basically. So then Hikaru captures the knight that was just sort of waiting for him on e5. Vidit still doesn't take this knight that's waiting on e3. He puts more pressure onto this knight with his queen. King steps back. And then Vidit captures the knight that was on e3. Hikaru captures the bishop that was on g4. Queen recaptures. Bishop captures the bishop that was on e3. Knight captures the bishop that was on e3. And at this point, just simply, queen g3, check. The king has to step out of the way. And there's another check by the rook. King has to step backwards to c1. Again, still very, very crammed. There are very little spaces for this king to go. You know, here's been protected, here's been protected. There are no free spaces for this king. So obviously it's not looking very good. Queen drops back to g5, aiming to move this knight out of the way, do a discover check. However, Hikaru's making room for himself basically with this move, b3, and the knight drops back to f1. And this check is deadly, and Hikaru resigns. A roller coaster of a game, really. Very entertaining to watch, made me very hyped, I can't lie. However, the next round between Vidit and Pragg didn't quite go the way I wanted it to. And you'll see in this game. So Vidit had white in this game, Pragg had black. So again, we're at this point 5 moves into the game. Another Roy Lopez for Vidit. And you would have thought, if you were Pragg, thinking, okay, Vidit just won with the Roy Lopez yesterday against Hikaru. What's my plan? Is he really prepared against the Roy Lopez? Or is this something I still want to lead him into? Is this something I believe I can make him make a mistake in, basically? And so Pragg goes ahead, basically ignoring all of Vidit's like early attacks and everything that he's been making, and making this whole push sort of kind of pointless in a way. However, on move 19, Prague castles queenside, and the right move here is actually knight to d5. Going for a trade, and then check, going for a check, and then when the rook moves to defend it, so then if there's a check, can be an easy recapture. This is still pinned to the king, but there's still a defense. Vidit could have recaptured with his pawn, basically, and everything would be equal, and Vidit would actually have one pawn more in material. However, after this castle, Vidit played h4, and we continued. Rook d8. Now, I don't really know how to describe this game to the average person, because this game, to me, was insane. You can't really see it from how you guys are watching, but from move 27 onwards, so rook hg8, bishop takes c3, b takes c3, queen c4, bishop b7, queen c3, rook takes c7, knight a5, rook e5, b4, g5, h5, g4, rook f e1, g3. We have mistake, great, mistake, great, mistake, mistake, mistake. Vidit makes a lot of mistakes in these few moves, and I think it's likely because of how low on time he was. You can see, move 34, he only has 3 minutes and 23 seconds left. When you're playing in a tournament like this, obviously it's going to be extremely difficult to sort of get over those nerves and be like, okay, I need to play this, I need to breathe, that type of thing. So he then takes the bishop that was on b7, which is a mistake because Prague simply takes the pawn that's on f2 with check, forking the king and the rook. The white king on g1 then recaptures this, but then when all is said and done, Prague recaptures the knight that was on b7 with his queen, and everything's kind of busted for him, really. You know, rook there, there's not much space for him to hide type of thing. So his queen swings around to defend his king, add a bit more protection. Rook jumps out the way, check, recaptures, g4, rook takes g4, then swinging back up to attack h6. At the end of the day, it's a rook endgame where white only has one pawn against 3 pawns. So this round wasn't good for Vidit. And in the round as a whole, actually, that was the only game that wasn't a draw. That was the only decisive game in the entire round. And it was between Vidit and Pragnananda, which, shout out to Prague, that's like an incredible feat, especially when you're so young in such a high stakes tournament. It's very impressive. So now we have round 4. This is the only decisive game of the round, which is why I'm showing you it. It is another Vidit game. So there may be some bias, but because it's the only decisive game of the match, because it's the only decisive game of the round, I thought it would be important for me to show you and sort of explain what happened as well as I can anyway. And at this point, and after this point, we have a decisive leader of the entire candidates. So let's go. Hi, I was really stupid at this point and I actually didn't start recording my screen as well. So you've only got my face cam and like a gif of the game. I'm so sorry. Right. Move 7. What have we fucking got again? Roy Lopez opening. Berlin. They love the Roy Lopez at this point, and Nepo goes for a classic move. And Nepo goes for a classic move. Queen takes d8 check. King takes d8 check. So now Vidit can't castle. Classic move. And yeah, let's just keep going. So Jan basically continues to develop as usual, as normal, and tries to kick Vidit out of town basically with his knight. And the thing about Jan is he plays chess so incredibly fast. If you remember at the World Chess Championships this last year, he played so quickly against Ding Liren. Ding lost on time against Yan, which is insane, especially for a World Chess Championship. You would have thought, you know, time would be very at the front of your mind and everything, but he froze up because of how much pressure there was, which is completely fair on Ding, and we're not necessarily here to talk about Ding. However, I think it's important that you know how quickly Yan plays chess and sort of plans out in his head whilst his opponents are thinking, because if you keep an eye on the time differences when you're watching Yan's games, it's really easy to see how strong of a player he is. It's pretty much equal for a lot of the game. Now, it is pretty much equal or Yan being slightly better for a lot of the game until we get to around move 35, where Yan plays e7, which is a great move, and Vidit drops his bishop back to d7 to try and defend the promotion spot. Yan plays rook d1, and Vidit plays king c6. Yan, however, continues forward, playing king e4, trying to attack this knight further and take it, and basically give him more chance at actually being able to promote. Vidit then plays bishop e8. So, like I said before, Yan plays rook takes d5. And Vidit plays bishop takes h5. At this point, Yan drops his bishop back to c1, basically trying to attack this bishop at the same time as defending b2, you know, with that Vidit's rook is attacking. Vidit plays bishop g6 check, and Yan simply steps forward, still protecting his rook, and this is a really good move, I think. This next move is a really good move, I think. Yan plays king f6. This rook is completely undefended. He could take that easily. Vidit could take that. But at that point, let me just show you what would happen. If Vidit takes, then Yan is going to capture this. Yan is going to capture this bishop, and no matter what, this pawn is going to promote. You know, he can move here, pawn is going to promote. No matter what. There is no way for this. There is absolutely no way for this rook to come out and all of a sudden prevent this pawn from promoting at this point. So that's why on move 41, Vidit doesn't take the rook, basically. So Vidit plays bishop e8. And Yan just further puts some pressure onto this bishop, playing rook d8. Vidit then tries and plays bishop takes 8 and plays b takes a3. Yan responds with b takes a3. At this point, Vidit plays bishop d7, and Yan simply plays king f7, protecting this square. You know, could promote this. You could promote the e7 pawn. It could be taken by this bishop on e7, recaptured by either the king or the rook onto e7, and you're still going to be up a bishop. So, as you can see on the screen, we have a clear leader, which is Yan Nepomniachtchi, on 3 points. On 3 points out of a possible 4. He hasn't lost any of his games. The other ones have been draws so far. Then we have Gukesh, Fabi, Prag, Abasov, Alireza, and Vidit. So thank you for watching this video and my sort of cover of the candidates. I know it's kind of scuffed, but I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, leave a like. and comment down below who you want to win the candidates. Not necessarily like who may be first or anything, just who your personal preference is for winning the candidates. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!